Hey everyone, Rick here, and have you ever heard of a game called Fleet Commander? This is a fantastic, at least at one time, just a two-player game, head-to-head, spaceship combat, done on a square grid where you have opposing ships. They were pre-painted, just little details. You could definitely do some other things themselves, but they had like their engines. You can kind of see some blue lighting there. But so the ships came out of the box looking pretty good. You had some terrain tiles you'd lay down, but I fell in love with this game because of the dice allocation. You had dice for your weapons, your movement, your engines, and your shields. And each turn you could take 3 of these dice in any combination. You wanted to do a little of everything. You could roll one of each die, and then the directions on the die would let you know, in accordance to where your ship was, where you could move or shoot. So for example, if you rolled this, that's kind of a wild symbol for a engine die, where you could move to any of your surrounding spaces, or with this weapons die, you could shoot either front, behind, or to either side of you. You could do whatever your dice that you rolled would allow you to do. If you just really wanted to get out of where you were, you could use all 3 dice to be movement dice, and then you have plenty of different combinations that you might be able to roll to go all over the place. Or you're surrounded by enemies, you want to roll all 3 maybe weapons dice and find out, how many shots you can take, or shields prevent shots from these various directions from hitting you. And then there are these special symbols which allow you to power up and use special weapons and abilities, and you can chain the dice together. Pretty cool. You want to shoot kind of long range, then you might want a couple weapon dice that hopefully you get something like this, where you can shoot up a square and then diagonal a square for kind of a long range shot. So I absolutely loved Fleet Commander from the first moment I saw it. This again was just the original 2-player box set. Since then, they've come out with some expansions for that. However, I was waiting on this, which is the Kickstarter rewards for the Fleet Commander Kickstarter. Yes, when I found out that one of my, and I will say my favorite spaceship combat game was having a Kickstarter, I thought, holy cow, I gotta jump on board. So I got a little bit of everything in here. Let's find out exactly what is in these boxes. So we will start with this biggest box, which I assume is going to be the core game. So we had, and they call this Genesis, Fleet Commander Genesis. So yes, in this first box, just one box, this is Fleet Commander Genesis. And as you can even tell, just from the back of this box, this game has grown exponentially. Look how huge that map is. You can now, this is now a multiplayer game, so you can play with a lot of different people if you wanted to, and just in the, comparing the box sizes themselves, the original box to the new Genesis box, which, let's go ahead and open this up right now before we get into some of the expansion content. The graphic design on this is so fantastic. This is straight from France, from Capsicum Games, which this is not their only title. Capsicum Games actually do have some other games out there as well. I love that box art. So you lift that up. First thing you see are bags and bags of these ships, all these different tiles. Now, instead of a static game board like would come in the old version of Fleet Commander, now you are setting up the board, and there are actual neoprene kind of mouse pad style mats too if you wanted to do that. But now you can create your own map, and you can do any kind of configuration. It doesn't have to be a perfect square. You can do rectangles, different shapes even. And then all of these dice. Now what I think is the case here is that they replaced the old yellow dice with blue. So the yellows in the old game are now blues, and they look like they're about the same size. I think the new dice might be slightly bigger. But there are a lot of dice, so obviously you'd only need 9 dice per player, so there were 18 dice in the original game. There is definitely a lot more than 18 dice in this bag for sure. Looks like this does play 2 to 4 players right out of the box without expansions. And then there's a lot of little components in this insert for tiles and other things. But let's take a look at some of these ships, because I believe there may be at least one new class of ship in here. Because there was 3 different classes in the old base game. Let me see if I can move around here and show you up close what exactly these ship miniatures look like. So here are your gigantic. This is actually, there's an expansion which I'll show you in a minute. That actually has a bigger ship than this. But this used to be the biggest ship for each side. There are 2 different factions, and again they do have some. There's a lot of detail on the ships, but also you can notice there's some different colorings. Like the engines have color, and then other little details are different colors. I love the blue on those ships. So those are the 2 big ships, and then these are new ships to me at least. These are 1 class down. So these did not come in the base box. And they have decals on them as well with their respective insignias. Now these did come in the original box set. Again, different colors on there. And there's holes in the bottom because they do come with flight stands. And then the smallest ships again, some engine detailing on both of those. So those are the tiny little ships. And then each ship has its own dial and flight stand. Now the dials you actually have to put together, so those are not yet put together. Let me show you. I think the dials may even look a little different from the original base set to what is here. Nothing functionally different, but example, here is a ship from Fleet Commander Ignition, and you have some values on there, if that'll focus. And then it kind of reminds me of the old Mage Knight games. These don't click, but as they take wounds, their health points go down, 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 and until they are destroyed. So you keep track of all that on the dials. There's some other stats here and a special ability icon, and then so these ships will just stand just like that on the board and you move them around. So that is fantastic. I just love the look of this game on the table as well. And again, if you know me, if you know anything about me, if you watch any of my prior videos, you know pre-painted is where it's at. So again, these aren't totally pre-painted, but at least there's some detail where you could definitely be satisfied with how they look without doing any extra modification to them. So now, let's get back to the unboxing. Because under that tray of stuff is more stuff. So here is a rule book. And it is a fairly simple game, but it looks like there is a lot of examples and I believe even some scenarios. Actually, there's a couple changes for the better in here with some of the components. As far as, ooh, just look at that. How cool is that? A 4-player game. Love it. But specifically with the, what do they call them? The bridges, the command bridges. This, I guess there's a rule book for English and French. I have the French one here now, but just to show you this. So in the old game, you didn't have all of this. You just had spaces to put your special weapon dice. But in this version, they actually have little slots. You can piece together this kind of command bridge you'll put in front of you. And that easily lets you know the abilities and everything for each of the different kinds of ships in your fleet. So you have that right at your fingertips, which I think is fantastic. Lots of punch-out tokens. They appear to be, you know, decent quality thickness. And then lots of these dials. And these dials look fantastic. There's definitely a lot more character in these dials than in the original base game. So again, more dials, more dials. Each individual ship has its own dial. And then here are a bunch of pieces that you can, again, put together to whenever you choose what ships you are going to be using in a particular battle, you will grab its corresponding little ship card here, so then you can put them all together depending on what side you are on to kind of have a nice little key or legend in front of you to give you a reminder of the different stats and abilities of each of the ships in your fleet. So that is the base game of Fleet Commander. Now let's get into a lot of the expansions. Now I think I pretty much got one of everything. So there's going to be a bunch of stuff in here. And yes, this is, I was so truly excited about this. So again, this is that mouse pad map, but you're looking at that and you're like, that does not look like that square grid. That's right. However, it really is no difference in functionality with this map. You still move from space to space. It's just laid out different, and it turns it into just a different feel, and it looks really cool. So this is just another map that you can play Fleet Commander on, and the rules for this are very similar to the square map. And then here's a whole bunch of little boxes with expansion content in them. So, for example, this Pirates faction. Now, Pirates has several different factions in here with special rules and abilities. So instead of you still use the regular ships, but you have different abilities, and I believe maybe even, let's just find out. Again, 2 rule books in here. I assume 1 French, 1 English, and then here you have a new dial as well as some new ship components, and it looks like some kind of captains or leaders that you can put on your command bridge to give you some additional special rules, which I think sounds fascinating. So that's just another way to just kind of mix and match, because when you are customizing your fleet, maybe you want to throw in these pirate rules that just have some extras in there. And then we have Fleet Commander Forge. Now this expansion adds different kinds of warships, so you still use, again, the basic ship pieces that come in the game. However, just kind of similar to the Pirates expansion, these will have different ship profile cards that you'll have out in front of you to replace the ship profile cards that would come in the base game. Again, 2 rule books. Don't you just love the colors on this? This one, though, has lots of different dials. and some different kinds of ship pieces. So you can swap out ships that you were already using for these ships that just act differently. And there's a bunch of them there. It looks like there's 8 different ships. I don't know if they're all different, but there looks actually like there's 2 different ships, but 4 of each for each different side, for each of the both sides. And then there are the ship profiles for those. So that's just awesome, just a level of customization. And I mean, the original Fleet Commander game, sure, you could set up scenarios differently and things like that, so there still was replayability, but now, with the different map tiles, with all the different ships, with the ability to easily play with more than just 2 people, and just all this extra content, it just expands Fleet Commander in a way that I am so glad. So many times I will latch onto a game, and unfortunately it just... I need to get a knife. It just ends up dying away. You know, it could definitely still be a fun game, but it just never caught on. The publisher kind of moved on, but not with Fleet Commander, because this is all brand new. Again, the Kickstarter rewards just arrived today from France. So in this, by the way, this expansion is awesome. This expansion actually adds new ship models. Now this is Fleet Commander Salvation. These add what they call technical ships, as well as new terrain tiles. In the base game, there were asteroid fields and some other fields. Now in this game, here are some new terrain tiles. This looks like some kind of space asteroid base. So there's a couple new terrain tiles in there, and new ships. That's right. So instead of repurposing the ship models that you had just from the base game, and I'll do close-ups of these. These are all new ship models. So here is one, if that'll focus, please and thank you. So that just looks fantastic. Again, these are technical ships, so you can imagine they have some fairly interesting abilities. And then here is the ship for the other side. Very slim profile on that one. So those are the technical ships, and you get many of them. It looks like, I want to say 4 of each. No, 3 of each. 3 of each technical ship. And all of their flight stands and bases. And again, you assemble the bases. The bottom of the base is plastic. And no, actually the top of the base is plastic. And actually, no, I think it is. You assemble it with these, the multicolored numbers go on top of the bottom plastic piece, and then these kind of ability toppers with a little kind of triangle cut out in there to show you what your value is for your hit points left. So you got your various dials. You got a whole bunch of different weird looking ability tokens that I have no clue what those do, but obviously those are going to incorporate some of these new technical ship abilities. So that's just fantastic. Love that so much. New terrain tiles, new ships, new abilities. That is what I call an expansion. But that isn't all, because we also have Fleet Commander Avatar. Now, what does Avatar do? Well, let's find out. Now, inside of Avatar is where the gigantic ships are. That's right! Another new model of ship. So again, you're not just reusing a ship model with maybe a new profile card to go along with it. No. this is an entirely new ship model, and not just any ship model. This is the biggest ship in the Fleet Commander game. So again, rules in both languages. It looks like there are a bunch of tokens here and those captain cards with their own abilities, so you can add different leaders to your army. And it looks like even some more terrain tiles. Looks like a black hole and some kind of awesome space fortress, so there's rules to go along with those. And then of course, wow, look at all the health on those ships. It goes pretty much all the way around. They got lots of really sweet abilities, it looks like. So there's that. Then there are the actual ships. One of them is called a carrier, the other one's called a dreadnought. Otherwise, just generically, they are known as heavy battleships. So let's take a look at those. You got a few more dice in there. There's their flight stands, and these models are gigantic in comparison to the ships we've seen so far. And that includes the biggest ships we've seen. So here we go. This is the biggest ship for this particular faction, and again there's all those engines underneath there, and it just looks fantastic. And then here is the big ship for the other guys. Of course, you look at the ships and you're like, well, the light gray is probably good and the dark gray are probably the bad guys, right? I don't know. Depends on what side you're on, but yeah, so that just looks menacing. And then all those engines in the back, that looks fantastic. So in comparison to this was previously the largest ship for this faction, if that will focus, and then this is the new largest. So you can definitely, whoops, and these are super durable. They're just solid, like plastic pieces. No worries there. And it actually looks like, do these both have, no, this one has 2 holes on it. I don't know if it has 2 flight stands or if there's just an extra hole there for no reason, but that is the comparison between the previously largest and then the new largest there. So that is pretty cool. And then here is the previously largest ship from this faction. If that'll focus in, maybe. And this, again, this one has a super slim profile on it as well. And then here is the new gigantic ship. So again, definitely a lot larger, maybe even a bit thicker. And then you want to look at it compared to the smallest ship. Sure, why not? And I'm actually going to use these flight stands. These are the wrong dials, just to make that clear, but just to hold them up by their flight stands so my fingers aren't getting totally in the way. This is the biggest ship from this faction, and then the smallest ship. So you can tell there's a big difference in size there. And I just love it. You can have these smaller ships flanking alongside. Oh man, that is just too cool. And just for fun, here is the smallest ship of the dark gray as well as the largest ship from the dark gray. So again, there are many, at this point, different ship models, which is fantastic. In the original base game, there were 3 different models of these ships. And then, in the new base game, there's 4 different models, and so far, the expansions have added 2 more different models, which means we are now up to a total of 6 different models per side, 12 different models in all. And that was only the second box. So yes, we do have another box. And again, the cardboard tiles here are super thick, which is always fantastic. I'll just set that to the side. And then let's find out. I don't even remember. Well, after all that, what in the world could even be in this box? Who knows? Looks like a lot of stuff. Whoops. Okay, now these were a lot of the add-ons and the extras. I don't know how they did it with the Kickstarter exclusive content, because there were some things, aha, I ask and I find. This is, yes, that's right, in this campaign there was quite a bit of Kickstarter exclusive material. Not a ton, but enough for me to say I don't want to miss this Kickstarter project. Because sometimes if it's just alternate art or something like that, I'll say, I'll wait till retail. I'll either get it sometimes cheaper online. Oh my gosh, did this seriously fall out of there? Apparently it came with a piece of candy. That is crazy. I wonder if they actually meant to put that in there. I mean, how else would that have... Oh, there are several pieces of candy in here. That is very interesting. And you know, that is a lovely gesture. I don't know if I will actually consume that, but isn't that just the sweetest thing? I do appreciate gestures like that. So, again, this box here are the Kickstarter exclusives. So, just to separate that from all of this, here is what was in the Kickstarter exclusive box. So again, nothing earth-shattering, but a lot of fantastic pieces, such as 2 more gigantic biggest class ships. So yes, and now in a 4-player game, oh wait, there's 2 more. So yes, this can now play up to 6, and there are big ships for everybody. So in a full 6-player game, each player can now have the biggest class ship. Additionally, there are 2 more of these technical ships, so just some extra variety, because again, you can mix and match. You can say, well, this game I want 2 technical ships, whereas the next game you'll say, well, I'm going to spend those points on a different ship, so I'll only take 1 technical ship. So the different, with all these different possibilities, fleet building is fantastic. And again, bases for those ships. So you got a bunch of extra ships. You get another big pack of extra tiles. You also have, obviously, the ship profile cards and ability markers. They do different things, like they can sometimes you might have a decoy out there, so there's decoy counters. There are drones that you can send out. So lots of different ship profiles and ability tokens. Obviously, some more dials. Here are some more tokens. And rules for these new commanders. One in English, one in French. There were some Kickstarter exclusive commanders that you can use that each have their own abilities in your fleet. So that, all of that extra good stuff was in the Kickstarter exclusive box. So if you missed the Kickstarter, no need to worry, because as you've seen here, it is really just more extra good stuff. There's a couple truly exclusive things, but overall not a whole lot. And it is something where I really didn't want to pass that by, but if I had missed the Kickstarter, there's nothing in this exclusive box that would prevent me from going out and buying the base game. So in here, this is, what do they call this? The Fleet Pack. So this is just more extra ships, so you can play a full, I don't know if there's already enough stuff out here for a 6-player, but this would definitely be enough then for 6-player games. Or just to have even more options when you're building your own fleet in lesser player games. And this is an extra tile set, so just tons more tiles that you can use to build even bigger boards. And then this is another fleet pack, so here are even more ships, more counters, more dials, everything you need for even more ships. This is the two-player set, so this is extra bridge packs, because you know those bridges where you put all of those ship profile cards. This gives you different colors, so when you are doing a full 6-player game, each player now has their own colored bridge. It also comes with these pretty cool little tokens there that you actually put those rings around the flight stands of your ships so that you can distinguish who owns what ship from another, because that could get really confusing. So they have those to differentiate who owns what ship, which was a very smart thing to do. And then, additionally, this is another 2-player set. I think my pledge level came with some of these things you see here that are duplicates. I think my pledge level probably came with them, and then I just added on extra versions of it. So that is another 2-player starter set. And then last but not least, you saw that mouse pad map of that blue ring looking alternate style playmat. This is, I believe, wherever I put my knife at, the mouse pad style map of the actual base game board from the first version. And yes, it is. And some people may have been worried. I know I heard some people were worried about having this map folded up and not rolled up, but you can set those worries aside because this was folded up the whole way here, and it is already, even just out of the box, laying almost completely flat with a couple ridges that you can pretty simply remove. But otherwise, so that is the mouse pad map of, I don't know if you can even see this at this point, this old board from the original game. And it looks like this is even maybe a little bigger. Maybe the squares are a little bigger, the colors are definitely brighter, so that is a kind of a fantastic upgrade you can get there as well. So that, folks, is the Fleet Commander Kickstarter. All the pieces. This is just going to be insane, the amount of stuff. I mean, well, at least for me, because I went from just that first initial